I can dig that. Like, I mean, that, and honestly, to listeners out there that like partying a little bit like me, if you want the best quality shit, you better learn some Spanish. That's where your fun's gonna come from.
You don't know exactly. Well, and this is actually how I looked at it, and I was before I got arrested. I think I can't remember whether it was the second or the third time, but I actually went to Philadelphia and I was going around to different bars and I was talking to different people about it, and basically my idea was to have a test that's administered like a year from my being or my inauguration. Have a test that's administered a year from then that, you know, every state votes on whatever the test is. And you know, because obviously I just want to have it be mandatory that you take a test so that you have a conversational command of Spanish or you get deported. Now, isn't that a switch from Donald Trump?
Yeah.
Right? So let's take all the stupid monolingual people and get them out of the country. And let's see who's going to take them. That's my favorite part. Who's going to take these people who only speak English? England?
No, even then, they don't like the way we speak English.
Right. So you hear what I'm saying? I'd like to get rid of a lot of the narrow-minded ignorance that goes on in our country. And I think that it's a completely reasonable thing to expect people to have a conversational command of Espanol.
Oh, definitely.
They do in California.
Oh, go ahead.
They do in California, basically. I mean, most people have a conversational command of Spanish in California.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, same in Arizona.
Right,
other
exactly.
places like that.
Exactly. And California is I think it's the 12th largest economy in the world. I mean, the rest of the country couldn't exist without California.
Oh, for sure.
Right. So we should pay a lot more attention to how California is in a number of ways.
Oh, yeah, it's like I'm hoping the whole coronavirus shit calms down so I go back to California soon.
Right, brother. I totally hear you. I feel the same way. I miss it. I miss LA.
Yeah, same here, man. Like I'm trying to actually be out there a lot more often, do a lot more stuff. I do a lot of comedy performances, things like that out there. How long have you been on the East Coast so far?
Well, I moved January 1st of 2019, and I actually went back to LA for a little bit in June after my lover and I got into an argument, and it was so funny because I was actually he was being a racist apologist, and I stood up against him, like, what the fuck is the matter with you? And the next thing I know, I'm getting arrested for trespassing. Yeah, it was surreal. But I ended up going back to California after he shoved me, and I was like, okay, well that's a deal breaker. And so I retreated back to my home in Santa Monica and hung out there for a little while until I was like, okay, you know, I got to figure out what the hell's going on. But yeah, I miss Los Angeles. I miss the culture. I miss the music. I miss the sass. And I miss the politeness, because it's so funny when I moved to Pennsylvania, I moved into this house, and my lover and his friend were like, we need to toughen you up, you know, hippie girl. And I'm like, okay, intellectually, you don't need to do that. Because I say we, but Californians value that.
Oh, of course.
They value intelligence, right? They're tough intellectually. They're not just assholes, right? And what these guys were trying to get me to be is be an asshole. And don't get me wrong, I'll call a cunt all day long, and I'll call a dickhole all day long, but that's just stating facts. That's not being a jerk. That's just calling a spade, right? Calling a heart. But I don't agree with, people out here are rude. They can be really, really rude and nasty and mean and full of fear, and not particularly, and this isn't true of everyone, obviously, but a lot of people out here are really afraid there's a lot of like underlying racism that was shocking to me coming from Los Angeles. So it's like, why do I feel like I've stepped back in time? It's like some sort of weird version of the 80s all over again. Everyone's chain smoking Newports and being racist. And I'm just like, what the fuck happened? I mean, I grew up on the East Coast, and I was blown away at how little it had changed. And it's actually like gone back to some weird version of the Dark Ages. And Trump has a lot to do with it, I think.
Oh yeah, for sure. You know, what do you think about the policies on? I know you mentioned decriminalizing cannabis. What about hallucinogens?
Oh goodness. Well, I think all drugs should be decriminalized. I totally think that. I don't think that drugs should be I don't think pleasure should be criminalized in any way. That's just absurd. I don't need a daddy, do you? No adult needs a dad or a mom telling them what they can ingest. They just don't. So, and when it comes to psychedelics, I mean, I am a huge advocate of MAPS.org, and it's the Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies in Santa Cruz. And they do things like LSD-assisted death, and MDMA and cannabis for PTSD. And I agree with all of that, psilocybin especially. I mean, there was this, a few years ago, I had my hands on some really, really sweet, we used to just call it mushroom goo, but it's basically like a genetic, I don't know whether it's genetically engineered, but it's an engineered psilocybin out of Johns Hopkins that would just blow your socks off. And yes, I know that's a mixed metaphor. But it was amazing, this stuff. And it gets your brain into different parts of the psyche, which is healthy. And I don't think that everyone can handle it, but the people who can't handle it, all they need is a spirit guide. And MAPS actually has this group called the Zendo Project. And what they do is they go to festivals like Burning Man, and they help people who get into the trouble zone if they ever, they take too much LSD or, and I mean, actually, I don't think there's such a thing as taking too much LSD. I think that it more has to do, or any of those things for that matter. I think it more has to do with the cocktail that you bring to the drug, not the other way around.
Yeah.
Because I've drank my weight in that stuff, and I freaking love it. And the only times that I've ever had issues have been because of some sort of traumatic situation that got triggered. And somebody talked me down and I was fine.
Oh, yeah. Like that's one thing, too, with the mushrooms. Like, I like that better than I like acid because I feel like it's a good starter for someone that doesn't do a whole lot of hallucinogens.
Right,
it's
right.
a good way it's easier to snap back into reality when you need to.
Right. Right. Well, I'm also a huge advocate of DMT. And I know that Joe Rogan feels that way, and I totally agree with him 100%. It is a great way. Well, I mean, and it's that chemical is found in isn't it found in all plants? I'm pretty sure.
Oh yeah.
Right. So I mean, it's just like cannabinoids. Like they're found in everything. And the cool part about DMT is that it actually gets you in touch with that bliss chemical that's released when you die. And one of the downsides to being human is our tremendous ingrained fear of dying. And it's actually not dying that we're afraid of. It's the pain of dying that we're afraid of. And that's the whole reason that our brains are designed that way, or not really designed, but that they work that way is so that there's this pleasure chemical that's released so that you aren't miserable when you die. And that chemical is DMT. And so actually isolating it and smoking it and experiencing that was one of the most liberating experiences I've ever had. So I'm a huge advocate of that as well.
Oh, definitely. It's like that's actually one of the hallucinogens I haven't tried yet. I've been trying to get my hands on because I've been hearing so much about it.
Yeah. Well, Humboldt was really cool that way. For whatever it's worth, I got to do lots of cool experimental shit up in Humboldt County. It's a good spot.
Oh, yeah, I might have to make a trip after this whole.
You do. It's beautiful up there. Yeah, it's super beautiful.
Oh, yeah. Now, the one thing I do request when you do win the presidency, before you get rid of the White House, we got to throw a big party there.
I'm totally down. Yeah, no. I think that it's sort of like the Talking Heads burning down the house.
Hell yeah! In fact, we could throw like a massive just orgy there.
Yes.
Really.
Yes.
The first consensual orgy of the White House.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that would be spectacular. Well, I know I told you this, but I do want to show up to apparently, according to the Washington Post, there are 4 things that you need to do to be president. And that's 1 is fill out your statement of candidacy. 2 is get petitions signed. 3 is debate, and 4 is show up to your inauguration. And I want to show up topless, wearing a headdress, with my dog by my side. That's exactly how I want to show up. And I'd like to have everybody like that. I think it would be great.
I'll be up there with the toga and the joint burning.
That's what I'm screaming. I want to show up like Grace Jones in Boomerang. I don't know if you remember that from that film, but she basically dropped, she had a helicopter in a big box, and she dropped out of the sky, and she had 4 scantily clad men as her horsemen pull her on a drawn carriage. That just sounds so much more fun. Yeah, because we really do need to jazz all this shit up a whole lot. I saw a meme recently. This woman was saying, please don't mistake my sense of humor about what's going on in the world for my lack of sensitivity or a lack of caring. I am definitely a mutt, but I'm mostly Irish, and the Irish make fun of everything, especially ourselves. We're just huge fans of having a sense of humor about just about anything and everything. And I feel like in a lot of ways, we know the president doesn't have a sense of humor about himself at all whatsoever. He's a joke, but he doesn't think he's a joke. He just can't see how ridiculous he is. Yeah. And it'd be really, really cool if he would just get a fucking sense of humor about himself and fuck his wife, please. That poor woman. Oh my goodness gracious.
She's not 13 anymore. He doesn't want it anymore.
Well, she just needs to sit on his face. That's what she needs to do. I just feel like that would do the country a huge favor if she would just do that.
Smear some of that orange paint a little bit.
Oh. Ew. That's so glorious. Gross. Well put, though. Oh, man. But, yes, absolutely. Have a big, huge party at the White House. I want Woody Harrelson there. I want Snoop Dogg there. I mean, there's some really, really good people that I would like to have there, without a doubt.
We might be able to get Snoop.
Yeah, that would be cool. That would be cool.
I know people connected him.
Yeah, did they say? I think I said it here that I wanted him to be my president in charge of vices instead of the vice president. Either him or Morris Day from The Time. I think either one of them would be great. Now, I know I joke about that, but I really do think that there are some really, really good people out there in the world who are just good souls, like good soul brothers and sisters, good soul siblings out there that would be huge unconventional assets to a cabinet that I would have. And it would be all obviously up to them as to whether or not they'd be willing to have the position. But I want to be. I mean, one of my good friends, he said something about how Bill Clinton played the sax, and I was like, I'm much more of a rock and roll president than that dude, without a doubt. I mean, I've done it all, and I'm not. There's no shame in my game, CEO. No shame in my game. I will talk about you name it. I have a friend who's a Dominican brothel owner down in the Dominican Republic, and he's a great dude. He treats his girls well. That's another thing that I would really like to see. I'd like to see sex work be decriminalized and women getting the respect that they deserve for doing that job.
See, and that's what I think should be done too. Because I went from, I've lived all over the place. I've